Greetings to everyone who wants to know whether the top is in. This is Proof of Pod, episode 13.
Stacking the blocks, yeah, we flipping. Crypto coins, we ain't slipping. Digital gold got me dripping. Just signed a deal with that Satoshi script, man. Proof of Pod, tech on the rise. Blockchain moves, yeah, we wise. Hodl tight, watch it multiply. Crypto life, can't deny.
Hello. If you watched my last episode, you know that I've recently had a son, a baby, and so it's been a bit of a struggle to get content out. But this topic is so pressing, so urgent that I just had to get it out today. So baby's with his mom for a few hours. I'm wearing pajama bottoms. Let's freaking go, okay? So the topic of the day is whether Bitcoin is too high, whether it's had its top, whether the top is in and it's going to go down from here, maybe never to reclaim the highs again or won't reclaim them again for months or years. We're going to go through 3 levels of specificity to answer that question. First level, I'm just going to flat out tell you what I think. Second level, we're going to talk about it in terms of investment principles. And the third level is we're going to go through some ways to think about it. We're going to compare it to some other markets and other assets and give you some tools that you might use to think about it and come to your own conclusions about where the price of Bitcoin might go long term. And we're going to be talking about investing advice, long-term holding of Bitcoin, not trading. And we're not going to be talking much, maybe not at all, about other cryptocurrencies. Not because I want to denigrate them in any way, just because it's complicated enough to just talk about Bitcoin. We're going to leave out, other cryptos pretty much. So before we get started, if you could just subscribe, maybe leave a comment, say hello, say good job, anything you can do to interact with my channel really could help me out. Okay, so here we have Bitcoin chart, and this is the 1-year chart. And by the way, we're going to be doing kind of a Chromer point presentation here. Just have a bunch of Chrome tabs, websites loaded up, and we're going to go through them one by one, and we'll have the links in the show description, which we do a lot here. We put links so that you can check our sources or learn more about the topics that we talk about. So what are we looking at here? November 21st, pretty much live time here, 96,000, okay? Way up on the year. Almost tripled on the year. Okay, so is it too high? My answer is no. I think that it will continue to go up. And if you're thinking about whether or not to get into cryptocurrency for the first time, I would say definitely do it. Now, I try to personally get in a little bit more on the dips than the rips. I'm not opposed to getting in on the rips either. If I had some money sitting around right now, I would go buy some Bitcoin, and I would have no qualms about that at all. So this is not investment advice. This is, what I think. And you might say, well, what are we supposed to do? Hold it forever? And my answer is no. Hold it until you need to spend it on something. For me, biggest time I ever had to sell crypto was during my divorce, 2014, 2015. I had to sell all my crypto. I just pretty much had to. And I have not recovered yet the amount of Bitcoin that I had back then. And maybe I never will because I had quite a bit. But, you lose your job or, something comes up, you might have to sell your Bitcoin to handle that. There's just nothing you can do. But I would never sell Bitcoin to instead hold dollars. It's just never something I'm ever going to do. Now, some people might be able to time the market and, if that's their business and they know what they're doing, great, more power to them. Most people can't do that. Trading is a negative sum game. Investing is a positive sum game. I think you're much better off just buying now, whatever now is. Okay, I'm just a talking face on a screen to you, coming from the past as you watch this. So there's only so much I can speak to your specific situation. But for me, Bitcoin has never been so high that I would rather have dollars instead. Okay, so that's level 1. It's not too high. Feel free to get in. Okay. Level 2. I'm not an investment advisor. I did actually train to be one for a while, but didn't work out. And I'm certainly not your investment advisor, okay? I don't know anything about you, your situation, your risk tolerances, your investment objectives, all that kind of stuff, okay? Not investment advice. But here we have the SEC, and we're going to look at some very typical investment advice. We're just going to breeze through this. So 10 things to consider before you make investing decisions. This is the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. Draw a personal financial roadmap, okay? Evaluate your comfort zone in taking on risk. Very good. Consider an appropriate mix of investments. Okay, do you think that Bitcoin is one of the things you want to mix into your investments? I can't answer that for you. You have to answer that yourself. Be careful if heavily investing in shares of employer stock or any individual stock. To be honest, since crypto is my job, like it's not great diversification for me to invest a lot in crypto, but I do anyway because I just believe in it so much. But that probably doesn't apply to you. Create and maintain an emergency fund. Okay, do you think that Bitcoin could be part of your emergency fund? It's liquid. If some personal crisis comes up, you can sell it pretty quickly to, pay your bills and whatever. So, make a decision for yourself. Do you think Bitcoin could be part of your emergency fund? Pay off high interest credit card debt. I think this is very good advice. Consider dollar cost averaging. Okay. Now, when I was thinking about this is one of the two main pieces of advice that I feel like I've gotten from financial advisors. One is like start early. The sooner you start, the better. Now is the best time to start. You're never going to be any younger. And the second is to dollar cost average. What does dollar cost averaging mean? It means you do something like, say, I'm going to put $100 every paycheck into my investments, and then you don't change the amount that goes in. It's always $100. So if you were going to put $100 into Bitcoin every paycheck, when the price is low, you'll get more Bitcoin. When the price is high, you'll get less Bitcoin. And over time, you'll get kind of this average, and it'll reduce your risk. Okay, take advantage of free money from employer. That's like 401k matches. Consider rebalancing portfolio occasionally. Sure. I mean, we actually talked, one of the first episodes of this show, my co-host Clay was like, well, I bought crypto or Bitcoin or whatever back in 2013, 2012, whatever it was. And, I just had like this pile of crypto, and it was, way too much of my net worth. So, I had to sell some and, diversify. Perfectly reasonable. Probably most of you are not in that circumstance where you've got so much crypto that it's like 90% of your net worth. But anyway, it can happen. And avoid circumstances that can lead to fraud. Certainly relevant in cryptocurrency. Okay, so these are the 10 things to consider from the U.S. government. How would you put this advice into use if you wanted to? If Bitcoin is one of the mix of investments that you want to get into and you want to dollar cost average, how would you do that? Okay, the best way that I know of, easiest way, is to use Swan Bitcoin. And if you go to Swan Bitcoin /proof of pod, I'll even get a little bit of the action, a little taste, wet my beak, at no cost to you. You don't have to. You can do it a number of different ways. You can start today, get $10 of free Bitcoin, first no fees on your first 10K purchases. I mean, really good deal. And they've got it all set up where you can, kind of take a bit out of every paycheck or every month or whatever it is. Really good stuff. Now, you don't know me. Most of you don't. You don't know that I'm a straight shooter and not a shill or whatever. So let me just defend this real quickly. All right, so I do have an affiliate link with Swan Bitcoin, but I could get, and I probably will eventually get an affiliate link with someone like Coinbase. And I'm sure if I have both going, I'll make a lot more money off of anyone who clicks the Coinbase link than anyone who clicks the Swan Bitcoin link, because there's just a lot more to do on Coinbase. But I think Swan is the best place that I know of to start. If you know of a better place, if you know of something wrong with Swan, let me know and I'll reassess, and I'll do my best to give you the best recommendation that I can. But again, it doesn't cost you anything to use this link, so you can help me out by doing that if you want. Okay, so that's kind of level 2, like how a investment advisor who is bullish on Bitcoin might talk to you about investing in Bitcoin. Again, I'm not an investment advisor. I'm not your investment advisor. Not legal advice. All right, moving on. Level 3. How do you have any idea where the price of Bitcoin is going to go? It's a very tricky question, right? Do you know offhand what the value of all the Bitcoin in the world is? Do you know what the value of all the stocks in the world are? Do you know what the value of any particular company is? Do you know what the value of all the bonds in the world are? Do you know what the value of all the gold in the world is? Do you know why gold should be 2,000 rather than 3,000 or whatever? I mean, these are not easy questions, but let's see if we can go about thinking about these things, not necessarily answering these questions. Okay, so here we have Bitcoin futures on the CME. They've actually been trading on CME for close to a decade, I think. Once upon a time, and you'll occasionally hear this now, but it's just not factual anymore. People used to say, "Oh, Bitcoin only goes up because no one can short it." Well, that has not been true for quite a while. You can short Bitcoin right here on CME, like one of the largest exchanges in the world, and other places as well. But these guys have got to be the most broadly reputable. Without getting too much into the weeds, this is mostly like what the market is saying Bitcoin will be in future months. Okay, so we've got Bitcoin futures. This is the last exchange price for the November future is 97,500. December, 1 month later, the last trade was for almost $1,000 more than that. Next month, January, again trading almost $1,000 higher. February trading about $1,700 higher. March, for some reason, trading a little lower than February, and April trading about $500 lower than March. Although, like if you look over here in the volume, which you can't see because my head's in the way, there's only been one trade on that contract today. Only 7 trades this contract, only 3 trades in this contract, etc. Okay, but this is a common market paradigm called contango. Contango is when the future price of an asset is higher than its current price. Again, we'll give you this link. S&P futures and a lot of stuff have this contango effect where the price goes up as you go into the future. That doesn't mean that it definitely will. And again, there's some caveats that I'm not going to get into, but it doesn't mean that's precisely what the market thinks the value will be on the settlement date, but it's close enough for our purposes. And you can look and compare how much does S&P 500 futures go up over time on the futures. You can look at how much does gold go up over time, futures, stuff like that, and get an idea of like how bullish is the market in general, that Bitcoin is going to continue to go up. So if the masters of the universe knew that Bitcoin was going to go back down in the next few months, or at least they believed that, right? Then these prices would be quite a bit lower. But the prevailing market sentiment basically is that it's going to keep going up, $500, $1,000 a month for the near-term future. Again, this is real high-level analysis of the markets, not super precise. Okay, next up, we're going to look at coin market cap. Okay, and what I want to highlight here is the market capitalization. That means basically the value of all cryptocurrency out there is about $3.25 trillion. Is that high? Is that low? Is it too much? Is it not enough? These questions are not easy to answer. Bitcoin's is 60% of that value. That's what this dominance factor means. And here we have the price and the total market capitalization of Bitcoin. Oops, I did that. That's okay. Which is about $2 trillion. So would you rather have $2 trillion or all the Bitcoin in the world, right? Or, would you rather have, what is that, $20 billion or 1% of all Bitcoin in the world? These are the questions we are kind of dancing around. Well, let's look, what's the value of all the dollars in the world? The value of all the dollars in the world is 220 million Bitcoin. So this site attempts to put the value of Bitcoin in context against all the fiat currencies of the world. Okay, so where we should actually start is here. 13th currency in the world in terms of value of all existing currency floating around out there is Bitcoin. So it prices everything in Bitcoin, which is kind of clever and unusual, but I like it. So the value of all Bitcoin in the world is almost 20 million Bitcoin, by definition, tautologically. And again, each one Bitcoin is worth 100 million Satoshis, which is like Bitcoin's version of cents, again, by definition. So one thing you could ask yourself is Bitcoin more important or more valuable to the world than all the Taiwanese dollars in the world or all the Swiss francs in the world? Because that's where it's between right now. Is it more important or more valuable than all the Aussie dollars in the world or all the Hong Kong dollars? If so, then, over time it's going to, climb up this list. If not, maybe it's going to go back down below the ruble. Okay, but we can see based on here and here that the value of all the circulating US dollars is over 10 times the value of all circulating Bitcoin. And the value of all Chinese currency called yuan is over 20 times the value of all Bitcoin in the world. So does Bitcoin have room to grow on this list? You have to decide that for yourself. Here we have, so they're saying it's, here is M2 from the Federal Reserve, $21 trillion in circulation. And that's where they're getting this number here. This is the Federal Reserve who controls how much money is printed and how much, the interest rates are and stuff like that. And this is the 1-year chart of how many dollars are out there. Let's zoom out real quick. 5-year chart. Here we go with big boost around this COVID area, right? I think most of you probably know that at this point. Coming into 2020, had about $15 trillion in the world, and then started pumping out a bunch to supposedly stimulate the economy. I don't really agree with that, but up to 19 trillion at the end of December 20, beginning or end of December 2020. So we went from 15 to 20 in a relatively short period of time. By the way, this is the last year of Donald Trump's presidency, for those of you who think that Biden is to blame for all the inflation. Okay, let's look at the 10-year chart. Now, I often say, approximately, that the amount of dollars doubles every 10 years. So we're at about 21 trillion here, and 10 years ago we're at 11.5 trillion. So it's pretty much exactly double, right? 11.5. Let's go back another 10 years, and we should be looking at around 6, right? And 6.3, okay? So let's go back another 10 years. Should be looking somewhere around 3.5, something like that, right? And here we see 3.486. So again, about doubling every 10 years, or halving every 10 years going back in time. So let's see, what was that? 3, a little over 3.5. So 10 years before that, 2. That wasn't too bad, actually. All right, so when it only goes up like 50%, that's like good, right? Okay, so from that 2 number going back another 10 years, and we have less than a trillion, 900,000, and billion rather. And here we had big money printing cycle. It's kind of hard to tell on this map, on this graph. We'll just change this to a 10-year cycle, 10-year period, 74 to 84. We had a pretty steep curve with a bit of a boost here, during the last peak inflation time before COVID times. Okay, so anyway, we could do this bunch of times and see that on the max chart going back about 65 years, it was only a quarter of a trillion dollars in circulation. We are 80 times that? 80 times that in terms of dollars in circulation. So this is why you're a lot better holding Bitcoin than dollars, basically, right? Because if you have 1% of the dollars in the world right now and you hold on to them in 10 years, if trends continue, you're going to have 0.5% of all the dollars in the world. If you have 1% of all the Bitcoin in the world right now, in 10 years, you're going to have, I'm going to say 0.95, maybe 0.90 of all the Bitcoin in the world, okay? It's a lot better. It keeps getting better every 4 years. One problem with comparing Bitcoin to fiat currencies is that most of these currencies are used a lot to buy things, to pay for things in commerce, right? Whereas Bitcoin is used a bit more to hoard, okay? Now, I think both uses of money are very valuable, but it's very hard to compare them, right? Like, is it more important to the world to have a currency that you can easily buy things with? Yes, probably. Than a currency that you just hoard and, it appreciates over time. Really, it depends on what your needs are, right? If you want to buy something right now, you'd rather have something that you can easily spend. If you want to save, then you'd rather have the asset that appreciates over time. So it makes it really hard to compare a store of value kind of asset like Bitcoin to an asset that spends a lot easier, a lot quicker. So let's take a look at that. The GDP of the world is something like $105 trillion in 2023. I'm pretty sure that's all currencies, not just transactions that happen in dollars. How much Bitcoin gets transmitted around? Well, this is a lot harder question to answer than you might think, because if you transfer some Bitcoin from one address to another address, but it's still your Bitcoin, it's really hard to tell whether you actually bought something or not. So the world GDP isn't going to count if you move some dollars from your savings to your checking, right? It will count when your boss moves money from their checking or savings to your checking or savings, right? But Bitcoin would count all those things. And also, I'm not sure if they can tell which part of the Bitcoin transaction is your actual spending and which part is the change, because each transaction, some goes to an address and some goes to another address, and I don't think it's entirely clear, I could be wrong, which is the spending, which one is the change. But anyway, given those limitations, we see that on a daily basis, maybe $10 billion worth of Bitcoin is being moved around. 10 billion times 365 is what? 3 trillion a year. So counting again that there's all kinds of Bitcoin transactions that I think would not show up in GDP, the amount of Bitcoin transactions compared to fiat GDP is only like 3%, if I did all the math there right. Whether I did the math right or not is not really the point. I'm just trying to bring these ideas to your attention so that you can, draw your own conclusions. So what does that mean? Well, it means that Bitcoin isn't as important to the world in terms of transactions as some of these other fiat currencies. It might mean that there's room for Bitcoin to grow in that way. It might mean that Bitcoin will never supplant fiat currencies for day-to-day transactions. Hard to say for sure. Okay, let's keep moving. Trying to cover a lot of ground fast. Again, we're not really answering the questions. We're more asking them and giving some tools how you might think about answering them. So here we have Investopedia. How much of all money is in Bitcoin? This is from April. Bitcoin was 70,000 and we're up to over 90,000 now. So a bit out of date, but again, we're not answering the questions. We're circumscribing them. Okay, global wealth being 454 trillion. And we just looked at Bitcoin being about 2 trillion. So here it says 0.3%. Today it would be more like 0.5%. Okay, so is that a lot? Is Bitcoin being 0.5% of all the wealth in the world a lot? I mean, it kind of sounds like a lot, right? Not really entirely sure what goes into this number, but we can break it down a little bit better. Here's all the gold in the world, okay? All the gold in the world at the time of publication of this article, not my video, was 18 trillion. I think it's probably up from there a little bit. And so let's just say it's 20 trillion, right? Probably it's a little more than that. We just saw Bitcoin is 2 trillion. So does it make sense that you could have 1% of all the gold in the world or 10% of all the Bitcoin in the world and it'd be the same value? I don't know. Gold has certainly some pros to it, right? It's much more stable. It's got a historical cachet that Bitcoin will never have in our lifetimes. But it also has some problems, like it's harder to move. Certainly like across borders, right? If you think that, literal Hitler or whatever just got elected and you want to get out of the country, I can guarantee you it'll be a lot easier to get out of the country with Bitcoin than with gold, right? Literal Hitler is not going to let you leave the country with all your gold bars. Also, like in order to send gold electronically, you have to have trusted third parties, and that introduces counterparty risk and all that. So there's Bitcoin is actually more constrained in supply than gold is. They're continuing to mine gold every day, and maybe they're going to bring down an asteroid that has tons of gold in it sometime in the future and crash the price of gold. Who knows? So you just gotta. We know that it's about 10 to 1 right now. 10, the value of all the gold in the world is 10 to Bitcoin's 1. What else? What about bonds? Okay. Bonds are not talked about much in the kind of mainstream, right? But I think that bonds are maybe the best comp for Bitcoin right now. There's no single one comp that like answers it all. It's not like bonds in a lot of ways. It's not like gold in a lot of ways. It's not like fiat currencies in a lot of ways. But bonds are kind of like the steady, stable savings instrument of the fiat world. Global bond market is about $140 trillion at the end of 2023. I checked this, by the way. This is the AI, Google's AI, Gemini or whatever. But I didn't just take that at face value. I did look this up. Global bonds are worth, 150 trillion, and Bitcoin is worth 2 trillion. Is Bitcoin too much? Is it too little? Can it take some of that share of the bond market in the future? This is one of the questions where I feel like the answer is definitely yes. Would you rather have some treasury bond paying, let's say, 2% a year or Bitcoin? For me, the answer is clearly I'd much rather have Bitcoin. But again, you have to make your own decisions about these. And that appears to be the end of my slide deck. So we did it, cranked it out, gave you a bunch of things to think about as far as whether the top is in for Bitcoin, whether it's too high or whether it's going to continue to go up. One last time, I'll say this is not investment advice. I don't know why I'm supposed to say that all the time, but I definitely don't want to construe this as an investment advice in any legal way. So I guess that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, subscribe, comment, say hello, share it with your friends. Do all those things that you would like to do. We have these kind of long form videos on YouTube. We have short form, like 1 minute or less videos on TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and Facebook/Instagram. So check those out. Thanks again for tuning in. And we will catch you next week, hopefully.
Stacking the blocks, yeah, we flipping. Crypto coins, we ain't slipping. Digital gold got me tripping. Just signed a deal with that Satoshi script, man. Proof of pod, tech on the rise. Blockchain moves, yeah, we wise. Hodl tight, watch it multiply. Crypto life, can't deny.